Hello and welcome to Monocle on Culture. I'm Robert Bounds. We are back behind the wheel of the Cadillac Lyriq today for the third and final episode of our series in collaboration with General Motors. On today's show, we're finishing our road trip in Cannes. The city is a shining star of the Côte d'Azur. The beaches are pristine, the shopping options enviable, and La Croisette is a glide of perfect strollability. But it's the red carpet that's rolled out from the Palais de Festival and then seems to stretch its way out and across the whole city that really makes this place sing. We'll be looking a little deeper into the relationship between Cannes and the film world on today's show. We'll explore the history of the relationship between the city and cinema, take a quick tour of some filmic hotspots around town, have your camera at the ready, and reflect on Cadillac's impressive contribution to culture. Plus, of course, we'll have some time for final observations of the Lyriq and its game-changing Ultium battery platform. Now, on arrival into Cannes, there's really one place that stands out if you're looking for somewhere to lay a weary or famous head. The Carlton Cannes is an icon of La Croisette, and it really encapsulates the glamour and style that characterises this part of the world. That style isn't just reserved for the guests of the hotel or the interiors and famed striped awnings outside. There's a real plethora of well-dressed, smiley staff to meet and greet, dressed in pleated skirts, seersucker suits, trim grey jackets and off-white blazers. I wanted to hear more about their enviable attire, so I caught up with Laura Lefrançois, who manages communications for the Carlton Cannes in the hotel's beautiful inner gardens. She began by telling us about the exquisite attention to detail at the hotel and how film history runs through its lifeblood.
So we are using the DNA of the hotel for every little detail, so it's part of the decoration, every choice, the uniforms, of course. The designer helped us to choose these uniforms. One of it at the front desk, actually, it's an inspiration from the Grace Kelly dress in To Catch a Thief films in 1954, which was done here at the Carlton Cannes. So all small details are using the history of the hotel and also adding a touch of modernity.
We saw one of your members of staff, the concierge has obviously got his crossed keys badge, part of the Society of Concierges. But we saw a guy wearing a safari suit. Looked like he was walking around with a teapot. What's going on there? I mean, this is very good. This is proper 70s style as far as we're concerned.
Yes, actually, it's also part of the history for us to have all these outlets. Actually, the Carlton Cannes were thought as a destination by itself. So the Camellia Tea Lounge is one of it. Actually, it's all about the travel. So the safari uniforms was just giving us the story that the sommelier of tea is going all around the world to find the best tea.
He wears it well, the tea sommelier. We had delicious breakfast this morning. We've had one too many pain au chocolat, perhaps. But the waiting staff in the breakfast lounge are wonderful. And they've got a very kind of chic take. It seems like a very Côte d'Azur take on smart breakfast attire. Little silk cravat around the neck. Do you know where that vibe comes from? Because it seems very effortless.
Yes, that's really part of the DNA of the hotel, actually. The Riviera restaurant, which is the name of our main restaurant, is really focusing on the Riviera spirit. You have the very nice terrace facing the Mediterranean Sea. And of course, we wanted to highlight this style with these touches in the uniforms. Of course, the food with all the local touches, things that are coming from only minutes away from here. So it's really important for us to keep that vibe.
Obviously, the hotel, you've told us about some of the history, To Catch a Thief, and films great and small, but the film festival is obviously based here. This is the most sort of well-known hotel that's at the centre of the Cannes Film Festival. It must be part of the hotel's job, I suppose, to tuck its shirt in and put a smile on its face come festival time. Can you give us a gauge on the fun or the craziness or how demanding or how glamorous and carefree the weeks of the festival are?
The Festival de Cannes is always a unique period. Every day is a new day. So, of course, all our guests are requesting different things, and they want to leave something unexpected for this period. So that's really important for us, and it's something that we are trying to have all year long too, because of course we have a close relationship with the Festival de Cannes since the beginning, the very first edition in 1946. They were just nearby, and of course we have this relationship. We welcomed actually the 8 journalists that has done the first edition in 1946. Of course now it's thousands of people here, and the word is here in Cannes, but every day is different, every edition is different, and that's, I think, part of the magic of the Festival de Cannes.
That was Laura Lefrançois from the Carlton Cannes, that historic, luxurious final stop on our Riviera road trip. It was the final stop for us in the Lyriq on this trip, but by no means the end of the road for the car's Ultium battery. The Ultium is miles more than just a neat pack of juice under the floor of the Lyriq. It's a phenomenally responsive unit that, due to its placement in the car, lends the Lyriq that low centre of gravity that allows a sporty and responsive drive through the bends and byways, while offering that matchless Cadillac ride on the highways. And you're looking at some 300 miles of range. But then your eye won't be on the charge, of course. It'll be firmly fixed on the horizon. Now, as we arrived in Cannes in style, I couldn't help but consider how well matched this car is to the elegance of the city, and indeed its rich film history. In fact, Cadillac has made a colourful, roaring, svelte and stylish contribution to culture over the years. Here's Jason Slejewski, the Chief Marketing Officer for Cadillac in Europe, on that history.
Cadillac as a brand has just always been in the center of pop culture. If you look in many places around the world, from, the Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley days, all the way through sort of our connection to hip hop and, where we're kind of going now, and some of the recent connections we've even done in modern hip hop with like Killer Mike and DJ Jazzy Jeff and some other artists out there. It's like really starting to bring that modern nostalgic to it. And we think that's important. We are obviously a brand that's been around for some time, that is really starting to embark on a big change with electrification.
Cadillac's Jason Slejewski there, balancing history while keeping his own eyes on the horizon. Now, of course, everyone knows if you're looking for a little sprinkling of stardust on your trip to Cannes, there's the Palais de Festival and the Walk of Fame. But now that the Ultium power platform, with plenty left over in the proverbial tank, delivers us unto our destination, I've got a lesser well-known cinematic spot to visit in Cannes. Museum might be a little overgenerous, but the Cannes Movie Car Museum is a charming attraction that's well worth stopping by if you're in the city. The streets of Cannes are imbued with movie magic all year round, but of course the place really comes alive with the storied festival held every May. It's an event that always brings glamour, European art house sophistication, European art house controversy, and of course famously arriving by boat. Someone who knows the festival and its ways very well is Wendy Ide, chief film critic for the Observer newspaper. Wendy's visited the festival countless times over the years, and I was delighted to get her take on what makes it quite so special.
The stakes are higher, I think. So we go in there expecting to see the very best of cinema from all around the world. There's a sort of level of excitement. The whole of the festival, and the backdrop, the town itself, it's all about sort of excess, slightly larger than life. The glamour is glitzier and more beautiful than anywhere else. It's a very special atmosphere. So you go in there kind of hoping for possibly your favourite film of the year. So there's, the stakes are high. There's also the capacity to be really disappointed as well. So I think, every filmmaker, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't necessarily admit this, but every filmmaker wants to premiere a film in Cannes, ideally in competition, but Cannes has many different sidebars, so lots of different films can be shown there. But they also know that once you're in Cannes, it's a very kind of tricky environment, and it can go very, very wrong. Just ask Sean Penn, whose film The Last Face in 2016 was so reviled by the critics that they actually had to change the whole kind of structure of the festival to stop this kind of critical condemnation happening while the red carpet was still going on.
Cannes is very good at controversy and about getting headlines, Wendy, somehow. You don't hear the same sort of stories coming from Toronto or the New York Film Festival or Sundance even. It's very good at, I suppose everyone arriving by boat is a photogenic moment, or certain stars arriving by boat is a photogenic moment. But from there on in, it seems to be very good at capturing headlines, not just in the arts pages of newspapers. How does it do that, I wonder? Is it something to do with the selection process?
I think it's a combination of things. I mean, Cannes, obviously, it thrives on controversy, as you say. It's like a kind of staple diet along with rosé wine and champagne. Let's just talk about the way that, the city looks. There's this kind of glamour to it, this excess. It's got this sweeping, beautiful white half moon of a beach, which is almost like an amphitheatre. So you kind of feel like you're on a stage. And then the Croisette, which is the boulevard that runs along the seafront. It's like a kind of catwalk, or kind of crossed with a freak show almost.
I wonder, Wendy, if there's such a thing as a Cannes film. I mean, there are, as you said, there's the Palme d'Or, there's the Grand Prix, there are jury prizes. I wonder with these different sorts of selections for different sorts of films, perhaps, whether there is such a thing as a Cannes film. I'm thinking back to, obviously, big Hollywood films premiere at Cannes, but also, a lot of art house cinema, European art house cinema, gets its first airing at the Cannes Film Festival.
I think Cannes would basically argue that what they show is the very best of cinema from all around the world. So that includes, high quality Hollywood movies, and that includes a lot of the art house heavy hitters. So the names like, Pedro Almodovar, you'd expect to see him there. Saying that there is a definite kind of Cannes film, though, that's probably not the case. And I think what's actually interesting now is the films which show in the actual main competition have become much more wider and more challenging, perhaps, in their scope, and things that you wouldn't necessarily expect to see there.
Yeah, and we hear that films are broadly, there's a 10-minute standing ovation for certain movies and certain directors. Some films get roundly booed, or people walk out of certain films like this. Again, these are sort of headline-grabbing things that seem to happen at few other film festivals. Personally speaking, Wendy, have you sort of sat through, been part of, endured or enjoyed any of these sorts of moments at Cannes?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I've been doing this festival for a long time. So, nearly 25 years, I think. So I was there when the notorious Brown Bunny screened, which is a sort of 2003 erotic drama. I call it a drama, but I mean, lack of drama was the thing that really kind of people commented on. It was very explicit, and it was directed by Vincent Gallo and starred Chloe Sevigny. It was quite a scandalous thing, because perhaps people felt it wasn't really suitable for the slot in competition. But then Vincent Gallo, the director, sort of had a feud that was triggered between him and the critic Roger Ebert, which got very heated. So, I think the feud carried on for a long time after that. So yes, I was there, and I remember actually my memory of this whole thing was literally just looking around and seeing everybody in the cinema asleep, which probably wasn't what Vincent Gallo actually wanted, but that's my memory of the thing.
Yeah. Is there a particular film that you have loved that, added with the context of seeing it in Cannes, perhaps at a particular venue, is just a sort of golden, cherished memory of yours?
So many. I think the thing is with Cannes, if it goes very wrong, it goes, so wrong. It's just awful for the filmmakers, but it can launch a film's journey in a way no other festival can. So one of my favourite recent examples is Parasite by Bong Joon-ho, which obviously went on to win the Best Picture Oscar. But seeing that at the very first screening, and you're sitting with an audience, that kind of quietness descends when you all are realising that you're seeing something that is really, really special. And I think everybody in that audience right then, they really felt that they were seeing, a master at work and a really phenomenal piece of filmmaking.
Just finally, Wendy, as we are lucky enough to be speaking with an expert today and a Cannes Film Festival regular, what are some of the things, I wonder, that you see every year or that you notice on the Croisette or around town that clicks you back into knowing that you are really in Cannes once again for the festival?
Two little things I'm going to mention. One, I think it's worth mentioning the importance of the palm trees, because obviously the palm gave the name to the top award, the Palme d'Or, but it's so kind of important to the festival that actually they ship in extra palm trees before the festival. As part of the preparation before the festival starts, they bring in these big pots with palms in them, partly as a kind of security thing, because they use it to sort of barricade between the road and the pavement to stop people driving accidentally onto the pavement, but also just to sort of add to that extra glamour. Everything is extra in Cannes. And the other thing I would say, this is an interesting little kind of new thing. Dogs have always been quite important in Cannes. There is actually a side kind of, not actually part of the festival, but there's a special award called the Palm Dog. And dogs at the moment seem to be the kind of go-to accessory for the red carpet. So we had Messi, who was the dog in Anatomy of a Fall, was on the red carpet last year. This year, but there were two dogs. There was one who was the lead character in a Chinese film called Black Dog, who walked the red carpet. And there was another dog that was the star of a film called Dog on Trial. So everybody seems to want to have a dog on the red carpet at the moment. That's the current thing, which is what everyone wants to do.
From glamour to pooch grooming, when it comes to Cannes, Wendy Ide is a veritable trove of knowledge. Thanks, Wendy. Motoring and the movies are a rich seam, so let's explore it a little bit further. It's a marriage that's meant a lot for both industries over the years, and one that's got endless miles left in it for the future. The semiotics, muscle and meaning of cars on film are a whole area of study of their own. Who better then to muse on this meaning than that scholar of the golden age of Hollywood and how its restless relevance zooms into the close-ups of the contemporary than film critic Christina Newland.
If there are two technologies which would shape and define the 20th century, beginning their mechanized rise in a world shaken by a great war, it would be the motion picture and the automobile. If Pax Americana was about transmitting shiny celluloid images of prosperity to the rest of the world, rarely was that easier than with a boat-sized chrome fender of a new Cadillac DeVille and a Technicolor-drenched dame in the passenger seat. With its screen cameos in everything from Smokey and the Bandit to The Godfather, the Cadillac might be the quintessential status symbol vehicle on screen.
It's right, 309 West 43rd Street. You know any good spots on the west side?
Yeah, I think about it.
Well, think about it while you're driving, will you? I want to hit New York sometime this month. And watch out for the kids when you're backing out.
Cars on film and film on cars. They're a match made in movie heaven. In the post-war period and the glory days of the Caddy, an entire mobile society was erected to facilitate life on four wheels. Highways, racing circuits, drive-in movie theaters, and roadside diners. On film, as in life, the Cadillac could signify luxury, trumpeting the owner's social status, as with stylish ad man Cary Grant in Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest. Or Mad Men's Don Draper. Or the car more generally could allow an escape route for those disillusioned with life, or seeking thrill and rebellion. From the crime sprees of You Only Live Once, from the heart of Depression-era America in 1937, to Terrence Malick's existential road movie Badlands in 1973.
Many times I've wondered what was going through Kit's head before they got him, and why he didn't make a run for it while he still had the chance. Did he figure they'd just catch him the next day? Was it despair? He claimed to having a flat tire, but the way he carried on about it, I imagine this is false.
This life-altering mode of transportation forever changed the terrain and the psyche of the post-war world, and the car soon became an object imbued with quasi-mystical properties. Take the sleek iconography of cinema's famous cars. The 1968 Ford Mustang in Bullitt, the 1970 Dodge Challenger in Vanishing Point, the 1958 Plymouth Fury in Christine. Their names evoke speed and virility, offering the car as a dream extension of the invariably male self, representing the freedom of the untrammeled id. Men like Ryan O'Neal in The Driver, or Steve McQueen in Le Mans, would quite literally take the wheel. And as the 70s and 80s progressed and environmental concerns began to weigh, the car film grew more cynical. As in films like Vanishing Point, where the idea of a nihilistic road to nowhere put the brakes on the once purposeful car journey, filling it with torpor and uncertainty. In a number of engine-revving films of the time, particularly ones steeped in the druggy existentialism of the counterculture, cars and their drivers are cleaved from any sense of purpose and certainty. They're dogged by boredom or have drifted into petty crime, hopping behind the wheel to hit the gas. The self-destructive edge of the car chase movie came to the fore, even in lightly comic films like Cannonball Run.
That's the first time we took an order by phone. It's hard to understand you.
When I called you, I was doing 140 miles an hour. That was 6 lamb burgers, 4 shish kebabs, a side order of couscous, and 2 milk.
But it's not just solemn macho energy in the automobile on screen. There's also true romance, featuring a pink Cadillac as the lover's getaway car. Or the offbeat charm of the Cadillac hearse in romantic comedy Harold and Maude. The vintage car has taken on layers of nostalgia and charm as the intervening years go by. By the era of Mad Max Fury Road, the infamous villain Immortan Joe drives a cyberpunk mashup of 2 1959 Cadillac DeVilles. With a customized gearbox and with 2 V16 engines, the double caddy still shows off his status in a post-apocalyptic society.
How much more can I take from me? You got my blood, now it's my car!
Even in the future, old cars have new innovations and special meaning. With the automobile on screen, that happens to be a cumulative, powerful symbolic history of freedom, danger, and confidence. Just as in the 20th century, the Cadillac was a sleek sign of a bright and prosperous future, our values and tech have evolved to a point where electric cars and environmentally friendly vehicles will become newly iconic in the films of the 21st.
That was film critic Christina Newland waxing lyrical on the why and wherefore of cars, and especially, of course, Cadillacs on screen. And what of the coming years? Well, cars will remain on our screens undoubtedly, but we might start to see a gear shift in what drives them, and therefore what drives the characters too. Case in point on this evolution of the car on the big screen and the small has been supported and ratified by no less a force in film and TV production than Netflix, whose Everybody In campaign, launched in 2023, mirrors the desire of filmmakers to use clean cars, and EVs especially, in their productions. Henceforth, Netflix have committed to cast at least one EV on screen, story and relevance dependent, of course. There will be no Dickens wearing a digital watch aberrations, we hope. The Cadillac Lyriq has had its own big screen moments, perhaps most memorably in Spy Kids Armageddon, no less. I mean, obviously the whole point of an EV is that it's trying its own way to avert Armageddon, but, well, you get the idea. Finally, as this radio road trip checks its mirrors for its final highway, we'll take you to Electric Nights. This is the title of a short film that shows a group of friends venturing into the LA night in the Cadillac Lyriq. It's an exciting, glamorous portrait of the marque in motion, as well as a neat way of capturing an electrifying moment in time. I caught up with its creator, the Los Angeles-based filmmaker Lucas Dong, to find out a little more. I began by asking how Lucas approaches these kinds of projects and what it was about the Lyriq that he really wanted to capture when he first got behind the wheel.
It was both the exterior design, like I'd seen a few of them kind of roaming around LA, and there was something about it that was just really elegant. I also had a quick briefing call with the brand and, had some of the keywords and the things that they wanted to show. But you never really know, like, if those are just marketing things or if the quality they talk about actually lives up to it. And I was really pleased to know that, I really felt that quality when I sat in that car for the first time. It was a bit overwhelming because I just wanted to sort of exist in there, but I couldn't stay for too long. But yeah, I loved the little details of like the cantilever center console. I remember being really interested in that. The huge sunroof. I loved the visual of the big LED screen and how that wrapped around to the left of the driver's side, and you could actually use it and control it on the left of the steering wheel. Maybe it's the opposite side for you guys. But I had never really seen that before in a way that worked elegantly. It was all these little things, and I had a list of probably 50 things. Then I took those ideas or those little details that inspired me and tried to find a way that they could be a part of this loose storyline we had of a couple of friends going out for the night and kind of weave it into their night rather than cutting out of their story to just do a product shot and like something that doesn't really fit in.
Your film sits in a great kind of automotive Los Angeles nighttime tradition and history, Lucas. Tell us about your decision to shoot it at night. I mean, it's very propulsive, it's very kinetic, the film. Tell us about the momentum you wanted to achieve with the film.
Yeah, not a lot of car commercials are shot at night. It has some unique challenges, but I really loved a lot of the film, it has this like electric feel, and that was something that the agency and the brands and I kind of all worked on together, and they brought some ideas that I added onto. So I think the night element was always part of the creative, but what I loved about it and what I kind of ran with was this transition from day to night and how that's sort of like this one element of building energy and seeing the night come alive, like that very specific moment where the sun like just dips and then the lights come up. I sort of was inspired by that to come up with these other moments throughout the film that also have this feeling of like an electric feeling or things coming to life. And that's sort of what the car is all about too, and the creative of these friends coming together. It's like it starts off as this, couple of friends coming out of a restaurant, what's next, where are we going? And then they come upon the second Lyriq, and it's just this like flowing, evolving, like next step, and we're always building to something more energetic, this coming together and coming alive. And I thought the night could be sad and dark, but it can also be electric and alive. And I wanted to try to capture that element of it and that feeling of going out with your friends and kind of not knowing exactly what's next, but in for the ride.
And just finally, Lucas, you're a photographer of note as well. I wonder how you balance that, how what you learn on a set, on a shooting set for moving image, you can distill into your photographic practice and vice versa. Like, do you wake up in the morning and have to put a different kind of hat on to shoot one or the other?
I love photography, and it's obviously very similar to filmmaking, but I do keep them pretty separate, meaning I try to keep photography as just like a very meditative thing that I do on my own. I don't shoot so many photos for work. It's more like taking the pressure off and just letting me find things that my eye catches. And I think, the connection is that's like sort of my very abstract R&D process where I can kind of disconnect from the stress and the pressure of big sets and just wander and like, see keep my eye sharp and see what's interesting and how to compose shots. I don't think of it as that when I'm in the moment, like I'm going to go out and practice, but I think it's just a way for me to mentally disconnect, but still kind of practice the craft that I love. Yeah, I do like keeping them separate in that I think they can be such different mediums, and oftentimes they're grouped in as the same thing or like pulling stills from a video, but there's a lot of different ways you approach photography with different intention.
That was the filmmaker Lucas Dong there, who has a wicked way with shooting all things in motion. And that is all for this week and for our triple bill of road trip focused shows. My great thanks to all of our guests this week, and of course the biggest thank you to General Motors for working with us over the past few months. We've been proud to fly the flag for the Cadillac Lyriq, a mighty impressive EV that's been a pleasure to weave stories around. Thank you. Monocle on Culture is produced by Sophie Monaghan-Coombs and Steph Chungu, and Steph also edits the show. We'll be back at the same time next week, but until then, from me, Robert Bound, thanks for tuning in.